welcome to my channel, SteveO the Window Cleaner. Ben the Window Cleaner was asking me, Steve, what do you drive in your off time? Well, this is my new vehicle. I've had it for a little while, but after a decade of always having the same vehicle for work and outside of work, I finally got myself a vehicle that I could drive on my days off, where I don't have to look at all my window cleaning gear. I love window cleaning, but you need some time away from work, you need some time away from the things of work, and for no joke, this kind of helps me in a way, so it's nice. But yeah, this is my vehicle. It's a Chevy Silverado 2019. Wasn't brand new, nothing too fancy, but gets me from A to B. What I want to talk about today is how quickly should customers pay you, and how should customers pay you. So what we'll start off with first, we'll just go through like residential, storefront, commercial. We'll just keep it real broad, and I really think this is overall pretty simple. Residential, most of the time people pay right away. I find that that's probably the most often thing that happens with residential. Some residential, if they're not home and they want you to clean, I do a lot of those. I do a lot of homes where they're never home, and then I will invoice them through QuickBooks, and I put a net 15. I'm just basically asking that they pay the invoice within 2 weeks. I do not add any fee though if they do not pay that within that 2 weeks. So for right now, I don't do that. I've never been with a company that does that. But for residential, usually they will pay on the day that you do the work. Some people require that they get paid before the job even starts. I don't do that. I can understand it, or I can understand a deposit before the job, but I don't understand collecting before the job. Not that I've ever had an issue with a customer so bad they said like, I don't want to pay, but I do feel like it's kind of like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I guess it is that way for some things, but like if someone paints your house, you usually pay them like a deposit at the beginning, and then the rest of it at the end. For window cleaning, it's just such a simple thing that I just personally don't do that. But if you do it, there's no problem with it. I know that, and I believe I'm right in this, one thing that Chris and Alex did, Chris and Alex Lamborghinis, if you don't know them, they're the brothers that own Window Cleaning Resource. They're awesome. One of the things that I saw Alex say one time was that they actually got a deposit from every customer before they went and did the job, therefore basically making sure that they were going to do the job. So I think that's a smart thing as well. I just never got into that place where I had to do that. They had a very, very large company, so I could see the difference there as well. So yeah, for residential though, you know, what I find is that most people want to pay check or cash. If they want to get miles on their card, then usually that's where I have them pay through QuickBooks. And QuickBooks is very simple in that I just tell them, hey, I'll send you an email, you just pay online. And some people really like paying online now as well. But yeah, those are some of the good avenues that people pay. People can pay through PayPal as well now, Venmo, stuff like that. I find a lot of residential customers do that. Let's talk about storefront specific, even though storefront and commercial are kind of together. Commercial is a little bit, like bigger commercial is like a little bit different. But what I find with storefronts is if you have your mom and pop owners, right, who just, that's their store that they own, or they own a few stores, usually you'll get check or cash. There'll be some storefront customers, and it's usually the mom and pops is what I call them, that will always pay on that day. And with that, you can either do one of two things for their receipt. You could have a handwritten receipt, or you could just always send them a sales receipt from whatever invoicing program you use. That's a good way of keeping all your records very complete, is just doing a sales receipt on your actual invoice. So from QuickBooks, I could always, if someone pays with a check and they want a receipt, what I will do is I will send them a sales receipt, and I always make that for my own QuickBooks, but then I can also just save and send that to their email as well, so they have a receipt. And receipts are good. Receipts are a good thing to give, especially to your storefront and your residential customers, because on my receipts from QuickBooks or my written receipts, I have all my information on. So it's kind of like if you've done a customer for the first time, it's almost like a good reminder or a business card-ish for later on when they say, hey, who did I use? So don't just get the normal, don't just buy some normal sales receipts from the store. If you're gonna do handwritten sales receipts, have some actual ones made up with your name, your email, your phone number, all your information. You wanna give these people the best chance to recontact you for that job again. But storefronts though, a lot of mine go through QuickBooks, and what I will do is I will do the work. When I come to a job, I don't announce myself, I just start cleaning, and then I will invoice them. I don't have issues with any of my customers. When I was with Fish, we always did have an invoice that they needed to sign right after we did the job so that the job was done. And once again, I think that's something with bigger companies it's really good to do because there's so many different people. It's good to know that the job was for sure done. It's just something that a bigger company is most likely going to do. For storefronts though, I don't have any that pay through a personal check right then and there. It's either cash or online, and I find the online thing to be really easy. Now, commercial, all I'm going to say about larger commercial is larger commercial can take longer to get paid from. I remember we did a job for when I was with Jimmy that we did a job and it was like $3,000, and their pay process was 90 days. That's just what it was. They let us know beforehand. They said, we can't do anything about it. You will get your payment, but it takes 90 days. That's just how they were. They're a huge company though, a huge tech company. So it was kind of like, okay, and they asked for a lot of info. It felt pretty good, and they did pay us. A lot of those larger companies, they will take longer. You will learn your customers who will always pay, but some just are like, just aloof. They have a lot going on. Like, imagine how much stuff you have going on with your business. That business owner has the same amount of stuff going on, especially if it's smaller. But people switch positions. That's what I found with this one place for a long time, is that every time they switch positions, there's a lag in the billing being paid, and therefore it takes a while to get paid, and I have to email and remind them. So the nice thing about QuickBooks is I can send reminders, or you can set reminders always from QuickBooks to email the customer and be like, hey, this invoice is not paid. But that's a big thing with commercial. Larger commercial can take longer, but most likely they're always good for it. That's the thing. It can be good to have contracts with some of these larger commercial accounts, ensuring that there is something in writing that says you'll get paid. One thing I always do too with like commercial storefront stuff, even much residential, I always try to get as much stuff in writing as possible. Nothing word of mouth, like, oh, you're gonna pay this amount, because that could create problems when they finally are gonna pay you. Other things that sometimes have to go on for, usually never happens with residential, but for like storefront and commercial, some companies want to do a direct deposit into your checking account. I have a couple of those. I just have a couple of them. It's not huge for me, but and the nice thing about that is that when you use something like QuickBooks, if they pay online, there is a fee for QuickBooks to put it into your account. There's fees for everything. So if someone will input it straight into your business account, remember I'm talking about business account here. That's one important thing too. You've got to get a business bank account. Very, very important thing. You don't want to be putting all this money into your personal. You're gonna have a lot of problems when taxes come around. So be organized as far as that goes. But what can happen is that they will want to put that money directly in your account, and they will notify you. Usually when they do that, I do have one that doesn't ever notify me, so I have to watch the bank account, which gets really annoying. But you would basically just have whoever does your books or your finances for your company watch that and make sure they see it. But that can be frustrating. If I was a bigger company, I'd probably require more of a notification from that company, but for right now it's okay. Trying to think of kind of anything else I've noticed. Also sometimes, like what I said, is that when people switch out, that's a lot of the times when stuff gets messed up. Like a manager switches or the accountant switches, and boom, they don't know. So if you see a lag in payment, I wouldn't go to like anger first and be like, hey customer, why are you not paying this? I would take your time and say, hey, we just noticed that the invoice has not been paid. Very, very nice email or a very, very nice phone call. Most people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's gotten away from me, and I'll get that paid right away. So most of the time, I would not worry about it. I've never, ever been one to require payment prior to the job. I've just never done it. I've never had an issue from it at all. I've definitely seen instances where people have held payment partially because their company has gone bankrupt. So then you get a letter basically saying you can't even collect from them. I've seen that. That was something that happened to Jim. A long time ago. I've seen, oh man, I've seen a lot of things that are very, very interesting. It will never surprise you. There's so many things that can happen with all this stuff that it will come along, that there'll be stuff you'll be like, how is this even possible? But just as far as ways to collect though, I think one of the best ways to collect is through some sort of invoicing program. Instead of sending out any sort of mailed, invoices anymore, that's really not needed for your company. It's really not needed unless you want to collect those checks to put them in the bank yourself to alleviate those fees that come from something like QuickBooks. I cannot tell you the exact percentage on the fee that comes from QuickBooks, but I hope that's some good information for you, and just kind of stuff that I have seen with how I've gotten paid over the years for jobs, and how I've seen companies get paid over the years for jobs. Try to keep it very, very organized. You're going to have your customers that are going to lag on payment, and sometimes it gets to the point where, especially with storefronts, where a customer gets so bad you finally have to say, okay, I'm done. Or you make sure you get your money collected and then you send them a nice email. It's unfortunate, but sometimes you've got to make sure you get paid, especially if it's a larger account and they're really being weird. I've seen companies not try to pay to the point where someone literally had to go to the bank with the person to get the check to make sure that it was split right there to their company, because the person was just so bad at paying. It will really surprise you with money how crazy people get, about that stuff. And sometimes they just don't think of the window cleaner as important, and that's the sad thing. But yeah, that's the way that I collect payment. That's some of my tips for collecting payment that you'll see. I know I could have missed some things, so just comment below and we can talk about it, because I know a lot of people probably have a lot of great tips on this, and there's not a lot of information about it on window cleaning channels, just about the expected time that it might take for someone to pay you, and then how to collect payment. So we've talked about cash, check. Most residential customers are cash and check as far as that goes. Some will want to be invoiced to get miles on their credit card, but that's what I found. Please comment below with what your tips are if you have any questions about it, and I'd be happy to help. So have a good one. Peace. Bye.